Hey there friends, welcome back to my crafty space. In today's video, I'm going to be story planning using the Ampersand and Story Kit from Ali Edwards. So here on my table, I have everything set out. If you are not familiar with this kit or the pieces that came in the kit with it, what was separate from it, I will leave a link in the post of this video that will take you to Ali's unboxing, or her video where she explains all of the different pieces that are included in the kit in addition to all of the add-ons as well. So that way, if you want to get a better picture of everything, you can find it right there. But there's no need to reinvent the wheel here, so I'm just going to jump into the storytelling portion. So today, my goal is to get as many stories told as I can, or whatever feels comfortable for telling this month. I have a few ideas that came to mind right away as I was getting everything out and putting it here on my desk. I do want to mention that I did grab a couple of the add-ons. I can't remember if the cardstock stickers or the chipboard stickers came in the kit. One of these came in the kit, one was an add-on. I made sure to get the add-on. And then again, there were chipboard ampersands that look a little fancier, and then puffy stickers that have the same die. And again, I don't remember which one came in the kit and which one was an add-on, but I grabbed the add-on for that as well. So just so you know, two of these are add-ons. Now, this kit is going to be a little different this time around. I probably will not use every single piece of it. I'm going to see if I can use all of the cards, and as many of the elements as possible, but I expect that I will probably not use all of the chipboard ampersands or all of the other sticker ampersands, just because that's a lot of ampersands. And yeah, I guess I could like make a wild page with a bunch of them. That could be kind of fun actually, but most likely, I'm going to end up with some of these left over. I am totally cool with that because ampersands are a great embellishment to use on all different kinds of stories. So I actually like that I will most likely end up with some of these left over. So I just want to put that out there. But my goal is to use everything on this square. And then we'll see what happens as we get into the storytelling part. All right, friends. So I am going to go ahead. I'm going to put you on fast forward, get to work with figuring out what stories I want to tell here, sketching them all out. And then once we have all of that done, we'll slow back down and close out of our video for today. So let's go ahead and dive in. All right, friends, so to get started with story planning for this kit, I did something a little bit different than normal, and I actually sat down and just wrote out a bunch of different story ideas that came to mind using the lens of and or ampersand, or, you know, in addition to those kinds of thoughts. So I did take a look through a lot of the products just to see what different types of themes were popping up, and then I also watched a lot of the class content for the Ampersand kit and the story chat and all of those different places to try and glean as many different ideas for stories as possible. And then the last thing that I did before starting this process was to go through a lot of my pictures from the last month or two to see if there were any stories that I have not yet told. Ones where I maybe wanted to tell a story, or I wanted to tell a story from a different angle than I have already, and I made sure to go ahead and write down those story ideas as well. Once I had all of that done, you can see in the upper right-hand corner there, I actually have 2 pages full of ideas and notes and all kinds of stuff on there for this particular kit, and I'm going to reference that a lot as we go through the actual planning process. So the very first thing that I pulled out of this kit were a bunch of those story starters, which are basically these little skinny, I want to say they're like 5-ish inches wide and maybe a ½ an inch tall. And on each of them, they have, you know, a sentiment like this and that, mess and, or beauty and mess, high and low, and all different kinds of sparks like that. So I took out a selection of those and set them to the side to use for Project Life. I really like the idea of having those go on either my photos or on my journaling cards and being able to use that as a jumping off point for telling the stories of a particular week. Once I had a few of those set to the side, I took everything else off of my center workspace there, and now I'm going to start going through my products to find cards, sentiments, embellishments that can help me tell the stories that I already know I want to tell. A lot of times when I am story planning, I will let the products dictate the stories that I'm telling or spark the stories that I'm telling. With a kit like this one, that's really versatile, but also not super specific, I wanted to take it the opposite route and figure out my stories first and then grab my products and see how can I make my products fit the stories that I want to tell. So that's where there's a little bit of difference. Sometimes I will also do a little bit of both. So before I pull out my story kits, I will also just pull out some photos and jot down some story ideas that I want to tell using that kit, and then let the kit really guide the way that I tell that particular story using whatever lens the kit provides. So this first story I want to do in a 3x8 album that I'm creating for my niece. I have been working on her album over the course of the last year, documenting her first 12 months of life, which I believe she is almost 11 months old. Maybe 10 or 11 months old, August, September, 11 months old. She'll turn 1 in September. So for that one, I wanted to use the phrase forever and ever to just jot down some different things about her, about babies, about, having a niece that are forever and ever. So like baby smiles forever and ever, or I could even say like toothless smiles forever and ever, wobbly legs forever and ever, all those kinds of things that we will love. We will always love them forever and ever. And that's going to be a story for her album. I'm thinking I may stamp out the different phrases or, something along those lines. Okay, so for this next one, I want to use this sentiment, this and that, to help me tell a story about Isabella learning to do tricks on the trampoline. So my in-laws have recently acquired a trampoline that we will go and jump on anytime we go over to their house. And Isabella has gone from being really timid on the trampoline to now she's like attempting flips and all kinds of stuff like that. So the nice thing about using the sentiment this and that is that it's really generic. Like that can mean a lot of different things. And so I kind of want to talk about like how I show her how to do this trick and then she is able to do that trick, and that kind of bantering sort of journaling. I also have the little phrase that said listening and learning to help tell that story as well. And I'm potentially going to use the ampersand stickers, either the cardstock stickers or the chipboard stickers, throughout my journaling, potentially even handwriting the journaling. So I'm not totally sure, but I know exactly what picture I want to use because I have a favorite that I have not been able to document in a large format quite yet. Next, this was a story spark that came from the story chat. The story chats, if you haven't watched those before, are over on Instagram on the Allie Edwards Design Inc. handle. And every month on the 12th, so the day before the new kit is released, a couple of design team members, and I believe eventually they're going to add in community members as well, will get together and just chat about different ideas that come to mind for those new story themes that are releasing. In that discussion, someone mentioned, and I believe it was a commenter, mentioned the idea of using the ampersand, the and, to tell a story about all the different things that we are. So like, how do you define yourself? And so this is a story that I want to tell inside of my pocket page notebook. Pocket page notebooks are a traveler's notebook that have pockets in between each of the paper pages, and which just make it fun for creating interactive elements or see-through elements and all different kinds of things there. So I want to create a stamped out page using stamping and then using the embellishment ampersands. Again, maybe puffy stickers, cardstock stickers, chipboard stickers, all the stickers, and just basically say like, I am ... and then, mother and wife and daughter and sister and crafter and, like all the different things that define who I am, and then just pair that with a selfie. Next, I am going to go through a bunch of these cards, trying to find some pieces that can help me tell a story about visiting my husband's aunt and uncle recently. Aaron actually went out of town to visit with some family out of town, and while he was gone, his aunt and uncle invited us over for dinner, which ended up with us staying the night and then having breakfast with them the next day. So I want to talk about that story, and I love the idea of using the story lens, more to the story. Here's more to the story, and using that to, tell the story from a really simple, factual standpoint, and then like, here's more to the story, and then add more, and then here's more to the story, and, add more. Another way that this could be said is the phrase, and then. So, and then we blah, 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 and then we blah, 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 blah. So, it's just a fun way to tell a story using lots of, using a sentiment, or a jumping off point to help pull more of those facts and feelings out of it. So I'm looking for pieces for that. In the meantime, while I am trying to determine what the heck I want to use here, I thought I would potentially use an idea from the Allie Edwards Ampersand Story class. The story class is, if you are not a subscriber to both I should back up to go forward. The story class is a subscription in and of itself, and through that you get the digital kit. But also, it is free to those who subscribe to both the physical story kit and the physical story stamp. So you can get it, a couple different ways in that sense. But the story classroom, Allie will actually present typically 3 to 4 different ideas for layouts that you can create. And one of them that she did this month, I super loved. It was basically a piece of journaling that she had printed off, and then layered up behind the journaling were a bunch of ampersands. So they're like coming out of the card. And I really loved the way that looked, and I knew I wanted to scrap lift it. So I pulled out some pieces that I thought looked really pretty together. I was considering using them for this, more to the story, but then it just became too much. So I set that to the side, and I will come up with a story to tell with those products here later. In the meantime, I still have the card there that says, and then. So that one, I know I want that one to be part of this story. It's just trying to figure out like, what else can I put here to help make this story feel complete, and also to add more journaling to this, because that and then card is only going to give me so much area to write. I also, while I was working on this, pulled over the wood veneer ampersand. I have a fantastic idea for that one. For now, I'm just going to set that to the side, and then we'll pull that over later. I believe that's the very last one that I will sketch out here, but I did bring that over, and then I set it to the side to work with later. What I ended up deciding to do for this and then, or more of the story was to pull out these 2 green 3x4 cards. One of them has a fairly significant area for journaling, which I thought was great, so I could add more to the story. And then the other one is a large ampersand, which I'm thinking I may potentially put my husband's aunt and uncle, so it's Uncle Mito and Aunt Sandy. So I may like type out their names and put that on the ampersand, because there is an and in their names, right? Uncle Mito and Aunt Sandy. So I'm thinking I will do that, or I might just let it be an embellishment. I'm not totally sure yet. So that's going to go in a 3x8 divided page protector. So there will be 2 pockets there. And then on the side that will go with this one, I am planning to put that card just in the middle of the photo. This is something that a creative team member, Kim, I think it's Kim Chofin. Oh goodness, I probably butchered her last name, but Kim, and she is at Kim Documents Life on Instagram. She does this all the time, and I love it, where she prints this huge photo and then she'll put a card on top of the photo, and she'll oftentimes put a photo on top of the photo as well. And it just it just looks so cool. So I want to do something like that. And then as I was considering that, I also thought, why not grab a couple of those smaller ampersands and see if I can do that same exact effect, the layering the ampersands behind the journaling card, but in a smaller format. So I did pull out 3 or 4 of those smaller ampersand embellishments, and I put that in the pocket to potentially use those as well. So that one's going to be pretty fun. I have some fantastic pictures from our weekend with our aunt and uncle, so I'm really looking forward to telling that story. Now, moving on, another thought that I had for a potential ampersand and story is a compare and contrast. And I wrote down a bunch of different people that I could compare and contrast. For example, I've got my kids, so Izzy and Jonah. I've got my husband and myself. I've got me to Izzy, or my mom to me, or, me to my sister. There's just a lot of different people who mean a lot to me that I could pair us on a page and compare and contrast our personalities or, our hobbies, like all different kinds of things. But ultimately, what I decided to go with for my compare and contrast spread here are my 2 cats. So we have a cat that is actually he might be 8 years old at this point. We typically age him according to our anniversary because we got him right after we got married, but he was already 12 weeks old by the time we got him. So technically that's not his birthday, but that is kind of how we gauge how old he is. So we have an almost 8-year-old cat, and then we have a 1-year-old cat. And they get along sort of, and they have a lot of things in common, like the way that they look, but then they have so many things that are different from each other, which is likely just because of their ages. But also, they have different personalities, right? So I thought that it would be really fun to locate a picture of the 2 of them together, which could be a feat all in itself to find a photo of them together, because they're usually, they're in the same room, but they're usually not next to each other. So I'm going to look for a picture of them together, and then use that really pretty, like cloudish looking card as a title card with an ampersand. I'll stamp out their names, and then I'll use another piece of that with some journaling on top to add the story for that one. Next, we're going to talk about a story. This one, funny enough, also came from that story chat on the Instagram account for Allie Edwards Design Inc. And the idea of mac and cheese, I think it was Lisa Varshine brought this one up, mac and cheese being, an ampersand type of story. Jonah, my son, is obsessed with mac and cheese. And so as soon as they said mac and cheese, I was like, yes, heck yes, that is a story that absolutely 100% needs to be told. So I am going to take it's kind of like a yellowy, a mac and cheesy colored ampersand there. And I'm going to use that at the top to create my title, Mac and Cheese. And then I'm going to cut off a portion of this 4x6 journaling card that's got these like orangey yellow circles, which again, just kind of make me think of, it's like the color of mac and cheese, so it works, right? So I cut off a piece of that, and I will eventually cut that in half and use a part of it at the top and a part of it at the bottom just to create some framing and give it a little bit of grounding, and put a picture in the middle with some journaling about my son's obsession with mac and cheese. So, which is how funny. I don't know if I would have ever told that story, but like, he literally asked for mac and cheese for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So it kind of works out really, really well. Okay, so this next one is another like quote unquote scrap lift from Allie's story class. So this one, she created a layout where on one side she had 4 photos that she printed, and she used a circle punch to punch out a portion of all of those photos, and then used an ampersand embellishment inside of the punched out area. And then for one of them, she had a journaling card that slipped behind the photo. So then it was kind of an interactive piece and allowed you to pull it out or put it back in. Well, I really love that idea, except I like to put, essays on pages. So knowing that about myself, I thought, why couldn't I make all of them have places that you could pull stuff out of? Like, that sounds pretty cool to me. So that is what I'm planning to do here. The story concept is then and now, so kind of a past and present type of story. And what came to mind for me is I actually permanently borrowed my childhood scrapbooks that my mom made for me, and that just means that I borrowed them, but I'm not giving them back. And they're mine now. And in my childhood scrapbook, I have a layout that my mom created for my first day of kindergarten. And I also have pictures of Izzy from when we started kindergarten last year. So I homeschooled her for kindergarten just because of COVID. And I want to pull out pictures of me and pictures of her and do a then and now spread where basically it kind of compares and contrasts our experiences with kindergarten and going to school for the first time and that sort of thing. So that's my plan. I also pulled out a plastic ampersand to pair with the story. I don't know, what are they calling those? Story cards, I'm going to call it a story spark, I guess, that said then and now. So I might layer those together, or I might put it on the page with all the photos. So we'll see. But then my journaling can be hidden away behind all of the photos. I'll probably do 2 of me and 2 of her, and then 1 picture of me and her on the larger right-hand side. So really looking forward to that one. Now we get into the portion of this where it gets a little bit harder to figure out what stories I'm going to tell. I guess, although this one I do, I originally had the green and pattern with the ampersands behind it. And then I actually really like the way that this more neutral card that says the beauty of the space between looks. And then I also want to pair that with the story spark that says gratitude and grief with the ampersands behind it. So this one is yet again another scrap lift. And let me just be the first to say, or probably not the first, let me just be an additional voice to say that scrap lifting is totally legit. Like, there are so many times when we struggle for what stories to tell and how to get those stories down on a page. And if you see a layout that you like, or that speaks to you, scrap lift it. It's totally fine. Give credit where credit's due, but scrap lift it and don't feel bad about that at all. That is what I'm doing with a bunch of Allie spreads this time, and I feel no shame. So I'm going to print a photo of going out in the woods with my kids, and I'm going to print that as a 14-inch by 8 1/4. So it's going to span over 2 sides of a 6x8 album, and then I will add the cluster of cards, ampersands, and all of that stuff in an area where there's a lot of white space. And the idea of the space between gratitude and grief, I want to talk about like these last days of summer, or these last, before I've homeschooled Izzy for kindergarten. So she's never gone to, real public school, but she will be in the fall. And Jonah has never been to any kind of daycare or preschool because of the same reason, like we had to be home with COVID. So in the fall, a lot's going to be changing. And there is a lot of gratitude for, the things the changes that are coming, and then also the experiences that we've lived. But then also there's a lot of grief for the loss of what has been, in order to make room for what is coming. So I want to tell that story with this kit. I think that will be one that will have a lot of meaning for me. All right, next we're going to move on to a story. I'm trying to remember what I tell with this one. I'll have to think about it here. But I really love the pairing of these 2 elements together, these 2 cards. Oh, this is Izzy and JoJo. Yes. So this one, I wanted to talk about Isabella and Jonah's relationship with each other. Now, Isabella, her nickname is Izzy, and Jonah, his nickname is JoJo. And we've always, Izzy and JoJo has been like a a thing we say all the time. And so again, another great opportunity to use an ampersand as a story spark for Izzy and JoJo. So we're going to talk about their relationship. I loved the pairing of those two cards. That's something that Allie put together, and I thought that it just was bold and just so pretty. So I'm going to use that to help me create a very editorial type of page with a photo collage and a spot for journaling at the bottom to talk about their relationship. So the rest of the cards that I have here, I struggled. I struggled with to come up with ideas for what to tell, like what stories to actually tell with these. There is another card that talks about the and space, so the space between two extremes, that we can have and feel two extremes and feel this and that. And so I have the one story that I'm already telling something about that. I'm already telling a story about gratitude and grief and feeling the space between. So I struggled with, what else can I talk about in terms of like feeling multiple feelings? And then I had some ideas for what to use the end and beginning for, and then what to use the best and worst for. But because those are the only two cards, like I wasn't sure how I could use those to create a full spread or a full layout using just that card. So it does take me a little bit of trying to finagle and think and move stuff around and move it back. And sometimes that helps me with my creative process. Like if I'm running into some roadblocks or, some creative blocks for what stories to tell, a lot of times I will just, pair two cards together and, do I like the way that looks? And no, I'm going to move it around and pair them somewhere else. And do I like how that looks? I thought about this card right here, potentially adding one of those felt ampersands onto it almost as a tab and making it interactive where it opens up to the right or to the left. So having that attached to the outside of a pocket page, or even, it doesn't necessarily have to be a pocket page. It could just be a piece of white canvas or white cardstock is what I'm looking for. And then you can create a flip element. So I thought about doing that, but I wasn't too sure about it. I have a whole bunch of those chipboard ampersands left over. So I'm just making them visible for myself so I can see what do I have. And from pulling all of those out, that's actually going to help me spark an idea for a story. And you'll notice that I did cut all of those apart because I wanted to be able to use or to add the ones that I knew for sure that I wanted to add into a specific story. I wanted to just add those into the project pocket and not have to remember at a later point in time, like, what was I going to use here again? It's nice to just have it in there. So I cut that apart because the backing is tricky and you can't just punch them out because, hopefully that will be fixed before long because I like to punch out all of my chipboard and it's annoying not to be able to do that. So here is one of my ideas is using this highs and lows card. And the story that I want to tell with the highs and lows, and this is one I actually did write down on my idea sheet. I just had a hard time figuring out what products to use to actually tell that story. So we recently went to the zoo with a friend of mine. So one of my high school friends lives in the next town over, and she has a son that is about to turn 1. And we, linked back up a couple years ago, and my husband and I are friends with her and her husband, and it's just really pretty awesome to have a connection with somebody from your past that now carries forth into the future. It's really special. And so I went with them. I took the kids and I went with them to the zoo, which you guys know is like our favorite place ever. So we went to the zoo and it rained on us, which was kind of miserable, but at the same time, it also gave us so many opportunities to see like really cool animals. So I don't regret it at all. So I'm going to use that card to tell the story. And then I also cut out one of the puffy stickers that perfectly fit over the ampersand in highs and lows card. So I'm going to layer that on top to give it some dimension, put that on top of potentially a full page photo and pair it with a couple of extra photos from our trip as well. And just tell the story about the highs and lows of going to the zoo on a rainy day. Okay, so here is where all of those chipboard ampersands were like sparked an idea to like, you guys know that I love using embellishments as bullet points for journaling. It's just like, I can't help myself, and I pretty much have to do that with every kit I get ever. So why couldn't ampersands be a bullet point for journaling? Because we're definitely going to do that. So I'm going to use the And Space journaling card as a title piece for this one. And then I'm going to use the ampersands in a column down the middle of a 12 by 12, use that for bullet points, and then have a photo on the left-hand side, a 6 by 8 photo. I will eventually grab one more journaling card that I will either fussy cut out, or I will just punch it into a circle and add that as an embellishment onto the photo. And that story, I'm going to talk about the And Space of moving. So we still are in the process of selling and buying. It's just taking time to get everything in order, just waiting on the domino effect of, a house selling so that our house can sell so we can buy a house. It's just a whole process right now. And I want to talk about that, about feeling excited to be in a new home, but also feeling nervous to be in a new home, and dreading the move, but excited to move, and all of the like And Space feelings of selling our home, of this no longer being our home, and of making our home somewhere else. So I think that'll be a timely story to tell as well. I've been able to capture a lot of storytelling throughout this moving process, which I think will be really cool to look back on in the future. All right, so now I am coming down to the end of my cards here. I have 2 more stories that I want to sketch out here. Actually, I have 3 because one of them you can't see, it's off screen. But this is me trying to figure out, okay, how can I use these cards that I have ideas for? I have an idea for best and worst to talk about, like best moments and worst moments of the year so far. That was an idea. Maybe that was Allie who mentioned that that's a story concept that you could tell. And I was like, yep, I'm going to do that one. And then, the other one is an end and a beginning. And originally I was thinking that could be the house story, but since I'm now telling that with the And Space, I have a different idea for that one, but we'll get there in a second. So for this one, I want to use the best and worst card there as a title. And I'm thinking what I'll do is I'll chop that down to like 2.5 inches, and then round out some corners, maybe date stamp in that peachy color area. And then I want to draw a line from the middle of the card, where it will be a title up at the top there, all the way down to the bottom of the page. And I'm thinking that will be a 6 by 12 piece of white cardstock. I might stitch the line. I might hand stitch the line. I'm not totally sure yet how I'm going to do that. I also thought maybe what I'll do with this card potentially is fussy cut out the best and worst and use that across the whole top. We'll see when I get there. But basically I want to draw a line down the middle and then have the best moments be on one side and the worst moments be on the other side, and do it almost in a timeline sort of feel. So I think that could be kind of fun. Who knows? It's just an idea. So when I go to put that one together or design it on Photoshop, that will help me better guide my story. And then for the end and beginning, an end and a beginning, I'm going to talk about the end of summer in the beginning of the school year. So this one I won't actually tell until later, after Izzy starts school at the end of August, and then I'll take a picture of her on her first day of first grade and use that picture to help me tell the story of her beginning her lifetime of learning. Well, she's been learning, but to beginning her journey through public school. Okay, so last but not least, here we are to the last one. This idea totally came from this huge ampersand, which means, I want to put it on a 12 by 12 because I like that. And I want to put it in the middle of the 12 by 12 and then use the words, or use my stamps to create the words before, and then use the ampersand as my and after. So Many of you know that Erin and Jonah and Izzy and I have not had our hair done in a long time, specifically the boys. So Erin has like hair down to his shoulders. Jonah has hair down to his middle back. Izzy got a haircut last summer. I got a haircut last summer. It's just, we're all kind of, you know, in a need. So we are going, after I film this, we are going to get our haircuts. Erin's going to go short again. Jonah, we're going to cut a bunch of his hair off. It'll be his very first haircut, and I'll probably bawl my eyes out. Izzy is going to get her haircut. I'm trying to talk her into some kind of shorter bob, and then I'm going to get my hair highlighted, woohoo, and cut. So I want to do a before and after of our haircuts, and then just add a little bit of journaling underneath the photos to talk about like our hairstyle before and then our hairstyle after. I think that'll be a really fun way to document, you know, a big moment of 2021. And then everything I have left here is going to go into an envelope for Project Life. I put a bunch of those story cards in there. I've got some additional journaling cards in there. I also grabbed in one more of those pockets, and I'm adding in all of the remaining puffy stickers, cardstock stickers, chipboard stickers, and the stamp set, because those I'm just going to keep out and use as I need them. I think that that will be an easier way than for me to put them into, you know, one pocket and then have to remember where exactly those were. So that is that, friends. All right, friends, that completes my story planning using the Ampersand Story Kit from Allie Edwards. Out of this one kit, I pulled out 14 different stories that I can tell, plus a week of Project Life. A lot of that is because many of these stories used only 2 or 3 elements from the kit in total. So, it just really stretched super far this time. And then I also have a packet here where I added in the rest of my story ideas into the back of it. And I've got all of my puffy stickers, cardstock stickers, and leftover chipboard stickers as well, so that as I'm working through some of these projects, I can pull from that selection of product to add additional elements onto each of the pages. So that's what this one is over here. I hope that this was fun for you to watch. Maybe it helped you to come up with some stories that you might be able to tell using this kit as well. I am going to be back again tomorrow putting together some of these stories. I'm not sure which ones at this point, but I will take these off screen to figure out story or, you know, journaling and photos and all of that. And then once I have that done, then I'll be able to determine which one I want to go with first. Until then, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will catch you in tomorrow's video. Bye, friends.